$500 cars still exist in 2025, and here's mine, a 1989 BMW 525i. I love the BMW E34, which is why this is actually my second one. And my intention with this one was to use it for parts for my other car, but this one runs and drives, and it has some goodies, so it feels wrong to part it out. This thing is quite a nice spec. It's bronzite beige on Style 2 wheels, and the inside is also beige. I forget which color it is, but it's slightly pinker than the parchment interior I have on my E34 wagon. This is definitely a pretty good deal for an E34 enthusiast like myself, but I think for people that want like a practical car, this $500 car will quickly show why it was $500. Basic functionality and appearance-wise, it looks quite nice, but it has its fair share of issues, which is why the underside of the dash is all taken apart right now. I mostly enjoy working on my cars, so for me, having a project, something to do for $500 is a win. But I'd say for practical transportation, this thing has already had some issues that I've, put some work into fixing, but right now it would not be a good usable car for someone. Mainly because it has some wiring issues that are leading to brake light problems. Honestly, these brake lights have been coming in and out, and I really can't tell if I've fixed them or what I've done, if that makes sense. But yeah, it definitely is a little precarious. The most glaring issue is it's making a ticking noise right now, and that hasn't really presented a drivability problem, but could be indicative of something bigger. But it does have some nice stuff like this Racing Dynamics strut brace. I already drove it 2 hours home, so it's already a win that it didn't break down on that journey. And I feel like it's also indicative that the problems that I'm facing with it right now aren't really that bad, if that makes sense. The interior is pretty nice and has a ski pass-through, but only one of the speakers works, and I think I'm going to be dealing with wiring problems for a while. It came with a bunch of dealership manuals, so that'll make things easier, but here's a look at something that I found just opening the trunk as soon as I bought it, and that's the typical E34 wiring loom failing at the hinge of the trunk lid. This was a quick fix though. What I just did is I cut them and then reattached them with some solder seal wiring connectors, and I think ideally I should probably replace these wires with more flexible ones, but for now this will do the job. Here's a look at how the connectors I'm using work. You basically just heat it up. First you crimp it on, then you heat it up, and there's solder inside that gets hot and, solders the wires together. It's pretty nifty. And here's the final product. It seems to work pretty well, but we'll see how it holds up. I was hoping those wires would be the issue with my brake lights, which in hindsight was a little stupid because the brake lights are on the outer lenses that the trunk wiring harness doesn't even go to. But I did fix the license plate lights, and it was worthwhile in the end, even if it didn't fix the main problem I was trying to fix. The next thing I did was I opened up the bottom of the dash and tested the continuity between the different connections of the brake pedal switch when it's closed. And if it's closed, when the pedal is pressed, there should be continuity. And there was, so I figured that ruled out the brake light switch as being the problem here. I then took a look at the trunk light wiring harness, and weirdly there's a splice into the brake light harness. If someone knows what that is, comment it down below because I'm a little confused on that. But since the brake lights sometimes worked before, as I bought it, I figured that can't be the issue. I'm thinking it might be the lamp control module, but I don't really know. At this point, I took a break and did a little vacuuming, and I gotta say the car cleans up pretty nice on the inside. Here's a look at the dash issues. I think the washer fluid is actually low, but it also shows that coolant is low sometimes. The coolant is fine, so I guess I need to replace the sender or something for that. But yeah. This is how it drives, by the way. Despite sloppy steer, it's pretty good for a $500 car, I must say. This is from the day I picked it up, and this is also when the brake lights stopped working. Weirdly, they were working when I first picked it up, but then I stopped, turned the car off, and restarted, and now nothing. Now at this point, back to the diagnosis process. The car came with extra relay module and an extra general module, I think, body control module, something like that. So I tried switching them out, and still nothing. As you can see, the indicators work fine, but the brake lights don't. And at this point, I'm starting to go back on my original diagnosis of the brake light switch. What I did here is I bypassed the brake light switch, and lo and behold, the brake lights are working fine. So I guess this means the switch is bad, right? Nope. Because guess what? Now I reconnected the brake light switch, and look at this. The brake lights are working. Also, the passenger side brake light bulb isn't working now where it was before, and I checked and it's not burnt out. So this is a weird thing going on, all in all. I'm probably going to replace the switch just to be safe, but I don't think it's that. I'm leaning towards this being the lamp control module because that's the only one that I haven't tested out, but I'm going to replace the brake light switch first because the lamp control module, an OEM one, is multiple hundreds of dollars, and an aftermarket one is like a couple hundred. So I don't really want to spend that much money on a car that was $500 right off the rip, but if I have to, I guess I will. Now, before I end this video, I want to give a little insight into how I got this for $500. It's actually because the previous owner knew that I have a beige wagon, and he was going to scrap this, and he knew I could use it for parts, so he reached out to me. Basically, to get a $500 car in this day and age, you kind of have to be lucky, I guess, and constantly watch out on Marketplace, Craigslist, keep an eye out in your neighborhood. You have to be diligent. Like, in the old days, I guess you could just get one like nothing, but now you actually have to kind of like search for a $500 car. So anyways, that's just some details into how I got it, and stay tuned for more because I have a lot planned with this car. If you like E34s and you're interested in following along with this project, make sure to subscribe. I also have a much nicer one that I have some big stuff planned for this summer, and a Saab 900 that I'm constantly working on.